Hi there. It was a sunny Thursday afternoon when I decided to surprise my wife, Alice, at her office. I had packed a picnic lunch, complete with her favorite sandwiches and a bottle of chilled lemonade. As I walked into the sleek modern building where she worked, I felt a tinge of excitement. 19 years of marriage, and I still loved doing little things to make her happy. I nodded to the receptionist and headed towards her office on the 15th floor. The elevator ride felt eternal, and I hummed a little tune to pass the time. When I finally reached her floor, I walked quietly towards her office, hoping to catch her in a moment of pure surprise. What I found instead left me frozen in my tracks. Through the slightly ajar door, I saw Alice in the arms of her boss, Jack. They were locked in an embrace that spoke volumes, and I could see the way their lips moved, whispering words meant only for lovers. My world shattered in an instant. I didn't make a sound. I couldn't. My hands tightened around the lunch bag, and I felt the blood drain from my face. They still hadn't noticed me. I stood there, an unwilling voyeur to my own heartbreak, until I could take no more. I pushed the door open with a force that startled them both. Alice gasped and pulled away, her face turning a shade of white I had never seen before. Jack's expression shifted from shock to something resembling defiance. "David, I—" Alice stammered, struggling to find the words. But there was nothing she could say that would undo what I had just witnessed. I felt a storm of emotions welling up inside me. Anger, betrayal, sadness. "How long?" My voice was cold, barely more than a whisper. "How long has this been going on?" Jack tried to interject, but I silenced him with a glare. Alice, tears now streaming down her face, whispered, "A few months. A few months." Those words echoed in my mind as I turned and walked out of the office. I couldn't bear to stay another second in that room, in that building. I needed air. I needed to think. As I drove home, my mind raced. The woman I had loved and trusted for nearly 2 decades had been living a lie. My thoughts turned dark, and a single resolve took shape in my mind. I would not let this betrayal go unanswered. Alice and Jack would pay for what they had done to me, and I would make sure they regretted every moment of their deceit. The drive home was a blur. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel, and my mind replayed the scene in Alice's office over and over. By the time I pulled into our driveway, the rage had settled into a cold determination. I had to confront Alice and get the truth, no matter how much it hurt. I found Alice sitting on the couch, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She looked up at me as I entered, and the guilt and fear in her eyes were almost enough to break my resolve. Almost. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady. I sat down across from her, not beside her. There was a chasm between us now, one that I wasn't sure we could ever cross. "David, I'm so sorry," she began, but I held up a hand to stop her. "I need to know everything," I said. "No more lies, no more excuses. How long has this been going on? And why, Alice? Why did you do this to us?" She took a deep breath, her hands trembling. "It started about 6 months ago," she said quietly. "Jack and we started working late together on a big project. One thing led to another, and it just happened." "It just happened?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You don't just happen to betray your husband of 19 years, Alice?" She flinched at my words but continued. I know it was wrong. But Jack, he made me feel special, like I was the most important person in the world. I didn't think about the consequences. I didn't think about you. I was selfish." "Selfish," I echoed, feeling a bitter taste in my mouth. "What about our kids, Alice? What about our life together?" "I never wanted to hurt you," she sobbed. I was going to end it, but I didn't know how. I sat back, running a hand through my hair. The pain was unbearable, but I needed to stay focused. "Well, you've ended it now," I said coldly. "Pack your things. I want you out of this house by tonight." "David, please," she begged. "We can work through this. We can go to counseling, try to fix things." But there was no fixing this. The trust was shattered, and the love we once had felt like a distant memory. "It's too late for that," I said. "You made your choice, and now you have to live with it." She cried as she went upstairs to pack, but I couldn't afford to feel sympathy. I was already thinking about my next steps. Alice and Jack had torn apart my life, and I wasn't going to let them get away with it. I needed to take action, to find a way to reclaim my dignity and make them pay for their betrayal. As I stood in the now silent house, a plan began to form in my mind. I knew where to start, and I knew who could help me. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice. Alice and Jack had made their bed, and now it was time for them to lie in it. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotion and action. Alice moved out, taking only her essentials, leaving behind a house filled with memories I no longer wanted to hold on to. I spent those days in a state of numb determination, focused on my plan. The betrayal still burned within me, but I knew I needed to keep my head clear to achieve my goal. I began my investigation with Jack. I had a vague idea of who he was. Alice had mentioned him in passing before, always in a professional context. But now, I needed to know everything. I started with a simple online search, which quickly led me to his social media profiles, business profiles, and more. Jack Turner was a man of many layers. On the surface, he was a successful businessman, married with 2 kids, and deeply involved in the local community. But a closer look revealed cracks in his polished facade. There were rumors about his unethical business practices, whispers of infidelity, and even a few disgruntled former employees who had hinted at his misconduct online. It was clear that if I wanted to take him down, I needed more than just these whispers. I needed concrete evidence. That's when I decided to bring in the professionals. I reached out to an old college friend, Mark, who had transitioned into private investigation after a stint in law enforcement. Mark was one of the best in the business, and I knew he would get the job done. "David, it's been a while," Mark said when I called him. "I heard about what happened. I'm really sorry." "Thanks, Mark. I need your help. I need to take Jack Turner down. Can you dig up everything you can on him? I need something solid." Mark agreed without hesitation, and within a few days he provided me with a comprehensive dossier on Jack. The report was thorough and damning. Jack had been skimming money from his company, using corporate funds for personal expenses, and there was evidence of several extramarital affairs, not just with Alice. Armed with this information, I knew my next move. Jack's public image was his greatest asset, and destroying that image would be the first step in making him pay. I contacted a lawyer to discuss my options, ensuring everything I did would be within the bounds of the law. The last thing I needed was to jeopardize my position by crossing legal lines. The lawyer, Linda Thompson, was sharp and experienced. She reviewed the information I had gathered and helped me devise a plan. "We can hit him on multiple fronts," she said. "First, we'll expose his financial misdeeds to his company's board. That alone could lead to his dismissal and potentially criminal charges. Second, we can leak the information about his affairs to the press. In this town, a scandal like that will ruin his reputation." I nodded, feeling a grim satisfaction. "And Alice?" I asked. "Focus on Jack for now," Linda advised. "Once he's dealt with, we can handle the divorce proceedings and ensure you get a fair settlement." With a plan in place, I felt a sense of control returning to my life. It was time to set the wheels in motion, to begin the process of reclaiming my dignity and ensuring that those who had wronged me faced the consequences of their actions. Jack Turner had made a grave mistake, and he was about to learn just how costly that mistake would be. The following week, I prepared for the first major strike in my plan. Armed with the damning evidence Mark had uncovered, I arranged a meeting with the senior members of Jack's company's board of directors. It wasn't easy to secure a meeting with such powerful people, but with the help of Linda, who had connections in the corporate world, I managed to get my foot in the door. The meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. I dressed in my best suit and arrived at the company's headquarters, a sleek skyscraper that towered over the city. My heart pounded with a mix of anxiety and determination as I entered the boardroom. The room was imposing, with a long, polished table surrounded by stern-faced executives. Jack was not present at this meeting. This was intentional. I wanted the board to see the evidence without his influence or interference. As I sat down, the chairman, a man named Robert Hayes, looked at me with a mix of curiosity and impatience. "Mr. Williams, you requested this meeting on a matter of great importance. Please get to the point," he said, his tone brisk. "Thank you for seeing me," I began, sliding a thick folder across the table towards him. "What I am about to show you is highly sensitive and could have significant implications for your company." Robert opened the folder and began to read. The room fell into a tense silence as the other board members leaned in to see the documents. I watched their expressions change from mild interest to shock and anger. This is, this is outrageous, one of them muttered, flipping through the pages that detailed Jack's financial improprieties, his misuse of company funds, and the evidence of his numerous affairs. Robert looked up, his face stern. "Where did you get this information?" "A private investigator," I replied. "Jack Turner has been betraying the trust of this company and his family. I thought you should know the truth before it's too late." The room erupted into a flurry of whispered conversations. Robert held up his hand to silence them. "This requires immediate action. We need to verify these claims, and if they are true, take appropriate measures." I nodded, feeling a sense of grim satisfaction. "I understand. I just want justice to be served." After the meeting, I left the boardroom feeling a strange mixture of relief and anticipation. The evidence was solid, and I knew it wouldn't take long for them to confirm its authenticity. I could almost see the downfall of Jack Turner beginning. The next day, the news broke. Jack was placed on immediate suspension pending a thorough investigation. The media caught wind of the scandal, and headlines splashed across the news outlets painted a picture of a once-respected executive now embroiled in controversy. His reputation was in tatters, and his career hung in the balance. But I wasn't done yet. The financial and professional ruin was just the beginning. The next phase of my plan involved exposing his personal indiscretions to the public. I reached out to a journalist known for uncovering corporate scandals. She was eager to get the scoop, and within days, a detailed expose on Jack's affairs hit the front pages. The fallout was swift and brutal. Jack's wife filed for divorce, citing infidelity and emotional distress. His social standing crumbled, and the whispers of his misconduct grew louder. The man who had once seemed untouchable was now a pariah, his life unraveling before everyone's eyes. Through it all, I kept my focus. This was only part of the justice I sought. Alice still had to face the consequences of her betrayal, and I was determined to see this through to the end. Jack Turner had started this war, but I was going to finish it. With Jack Turner's career in shambles and his personal life under intense scrutiny, it was time to turn my attention to the legal side of things. The next step was to ensure that Alice faced the consequences of her actions, both personally and financially. I reached out to Linda to discuss the divorce proceedings. Linda was efficient and ruthless in her approach. We met in her office, a sleek modern space that mirrored her professional demeanor. She had already prepared a comprehensive strategy to secure the best possible outcome for me. "David, we have a strong case," Linda began, spreading out a series of documents on her desk. "Alice's infidelity, combined with the emotional distress she's caused, gives us significant leverage. We can aim for a favorable settlement and ensure that you retain custody of the children." "That's what I want," I replied firmly. "I need to protect my kids and ensure they have stability. Alice's actions have already caused enough damage." "We'll start by filing for divorce on the grounds of adultery and emotional cruelty," Linda continued. "Given the circumstances, we can argue for full custody of the children and substantial alimony." I nodded, feeling a mix of determination and sadness. This wasn't how I had envisioned our life together ending, but Alice had left me no choice. The trust we had built over 19 years was irreparably broken, and I needed to focus on rebuilding my life and protecting my family. Linda wasted no time. She filed the divorce papers, citing Alice's infidelity and the impact it had on our family. Alice was served the papers the next day, and her reaction was as expected, shock and anger. She called me, pleading for a chance to talk, but I was resolute. There was nothing left to discuss. As the divorce proceedings began, Linda meticulously gathered evidence and built a compelling case. We presented the court with proof of Alice's affair, along with testimonies from friends and family who had witnessed the strain it had put on our marriage. We also included evidence of Jack's role in the affair, further solidifying our position. During the court hearings, Alice's lawyer attempted to argue for joint custody and a more favorable financial settlement for her, but Linda was relentless. She highlighted Alice's betrayal and the emotional toll it had taken on me and the children. The judge listened carefully, weighing the evidence and the arguments presented. Finally, after several weeks of intense legal battles, the judge delivered the verdict. I was granted full custody of the children, and Alice was ordered to pay significant alimony. The judge recognized the impact of her actions on our family and ruled in my favor. ensuring that the children would have a stable and secure environment. The relief I felt was immense. It was a victory, not just for me, but for my children as well. They had been caught in the crossfire of this painful situation, and now they had a chance to move forward with a sense of normalcy. With the legal matters settled, I focused on helping my children adjust to our new reality. I enrolled them in counseling to help them process their emotions and ensured that they felt supported and loved. We began to rebuild our lives, one day at a time. As for Alice, she faced the consequences of her actions. She had lost her family, her stability, and her reputation. It was a harsh lesson, but one that she had brought upon herself. I hoped that in time she would reflect on her choices and find a way to make amends. In the meantime, I continued to push forward. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I was determined to create a new future for myself and my children. The betrayal had been devastating, but it had also shown me the strength I possessed. I was ready to embrace whatever came next, with my head held high and my heart open to new possibilities. With the divorce settled and my children's custody secured, the next phase of my plan involved ensuring that Jack Turner faced the full consequences of his actions. Taking down his professional reputation was just the beginning. I wanted to see him held accountable legally and financially as well. I met with Linda and Mark to strategize our next steps. Mark had continued digging into Jack's business dealings, and what he found was enough to warrant serious legal action. David, Jack's been involved in some shady financial maneuvers, Mark explained, laying out documents on Linda's desk. He's been embezzling funds, falsifying reports, and even engaging in insider trading. This is more than enough to get the authorities involved. Linda nodded, her expression focused. We can take this to the SEC and the local district attorney. They'll be very interested in pursuing a case against him, especially with this level of evidence. I felt a surge of satisfaction. Jack had not only betrayed me personally, but also engaged in criminal activities that hurt countless others. Bringing him to justice would be a win for everyone he had wronged. We began by submitting the evidence to the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. The case was compelling, and within days, they launched a formal investigation into Jack's activities. The local district attorney also took an interest in the case, initiating a criminal investigation. The news of the investigations broke quickly, and Jack's situation went from bad to worse. His company, already reeling from the scandal of his affairs, now faced scrutiny from federal authorities. Shareholders were outraged, and the board of directors moved swiftly to distance themselves from Jack, publicly announcing his termination and cooperation with the investigations. As the legal proceedings against Jack gained momentum, I felt a sense of vindication. Justice was finally catching up with him. But there was one more step I needed to take to ensure he faced the full consequences of his actions. I decided to reach out to some of the other victims of Jack's schemes. Through Mark, I contacted former employees who had been unjustly fired, business partners he had defrauded, and even some of his past romantic entanglements who had been left with nothing but broken promises. Together, we formed a coalition to support the legal case against him, providing testimony and additional evidence to strengthen the prosecutor's position. The court dates arrived, and the trials were intense. Jack's lawyers tried to argue that the evidence was circumstantial, but the sheer volume and consistency of the testimonies made their defense crumble. The prosecutors presented a compelling case, detailing Jack's numerous violations of the law and ethical conduct. Finally, the verdict came in. Jack Turner was found guilty on multiple counts of embezzlement, fraud, and insider trading. He was sentenced to a lengthy prison term and ordered to pay restitution to his victims. The financial penalties were severe, stripping him of much of his ill-gotten wealth. As I watched him being led away in handcuffs, I felt a profound sense of closure. Jack's downfall was complete, and justice had been served. He had underestimated me, thinking he could betray me without consequence. Now, he was paying the price for his arrogance and deceit. With Jack behind bars and his empire in ruins, I turned my focus back to my own life. It was time to rebuild, not just for myself but for my children. We had endured a great deal, but we had come out stronger on the other side. The past year had been a painful journey, but it had also shown me the power of resilience and the importance of standing up for what is right. Moving forward, I was determined to create a better future for my family. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but with the support of my friends, my legal team, and my newfound inner strength, I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Jack and Alice had tried to destroy me, but in the end, they had only made me stronger. With the legal battles behind me and Jack Turner imprisoned, my focus turned to rebuilding my life and ensuring a stable, loving environment for my children. The scars of betrayal were still there, but they were healing, slowly but surely. It was time to start anew and embrace the future. I began by making some changes to our home. The house, once filled with painful memories of Alice's betrayal, needed to become a place of comfort and joy again. I repainted the walls, replaced old furniture, and created a space where my children and I could feel at ease. We chose new colors together, and the kids helped with decorating their rooms, making them feel a part of the transformation. I also focused on my career. I had taken a leave of absence during the most tumultuous times, but now I was ready to dive back in. My work provided a sense of purpose and stability, and I found solace in the routine. I took on new projects, collaborated with colleagues, and even considered expanding my own business ideas that I had put on hold for years. My children, though affected by the upheaval, were showing remarkable resilience. They attended counseling sessions, which helped them process their emotions and adjust to the changes. I made it a priority to spend quality time with them, engaging in activities we all enjoyed. We went on weekend trips, played sports, and even took up new hobbies together, such as cooking and hiking. In the midst of rebuilding our lives, I met someone who would become an unexpected source of support and happiness. Her name was Jessica, a kind-hearted woman who had also experienced her share of hardships. We met through a mutual friend at a social gathering, and there was an immediate connection. Jessica's warmth and understanding were like a balm to my wounded soul. Our relationship began slowly, built on a foundation of friendship and mutual respect. She understood my situation and was patient, never pushing me to move faster than I was ready. Jessica became a trusted confidant, someone I could talk to about my past and my hopes for the future. One evening, after several months of getting to know each other, Jessica and I went for a walk in the park. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the trees. We sat on a bench, watching the sky change colors, and she turned to me, her eyes filled with compassion. "David, I know you've been through a lot," she said softly, "but I want you to know that I'm here for you, and I see a future where we can build something beautiful together." Her words touched me deeply. For the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of hope and possibility. "Thank you, Jessica," I replied, taking her hand. "I feel the same way. I'm ready to move forward, and I'm grateful to have you by my side." As our relationship blossomed, I introduced Jessica to my children. They were initially cautious, but Jessica's genuine kindness won them over. She became a positive presence in their lives, and we slowly began to form a new family dynamic. The road to recovery and renewal was not without its challenges, but with each passing day, we grew stronger. Jessica and I shared dreams and plans for the future, and my children thrived in the loving, stable environment we created. The pain of the past had not vanished, but it no longer defined us. Through the trials and tribulations, I had learned valuable lessons about resilience, forgiveness, and the importance of surrounding oneself with supportive, loving people. Alice and Jack's betrayal had been a harsh blow, but it had also led me to discover my own strength and the boundless possibilities of a new beginning. Looking back, I realized that life had given me a second chance to find happiness and fulfillment. With Jessica, my children, and the future we were building together, I felt a sense of peace and gratitude. We were ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that together, we could overcome anything. Months had passed since I began rebuilding my life, and each day felt like a step toward healing. My relationship with Jessica was flourishing, and my children were thriving in the supportive environment we had created. But there was still one piece of unfinished business that I needed to address: Alice. Despite everything, she was still the mother of my children. I knew that for their sake, we needed to find a way to co-parent effectively. I wanted to ensure that our interactions were as smooth and drama-free as possible, even if our personal relationship was beyond repair. I reached out to Alice, proposing a meeting at a neutral location, a quiet cafe near the park where we used to take the kids. When I arrived, I found her already there, looking anxious but determined. I took a deep breath and approached the table. "David," she said softly, her eyes reflecting a mix of regret and hope. "Alice," I replied, sitting down across from her. "Thank you for meeting with me. I know I've caused a lot of pain," she began, her voice trembling. "And I'm so sorry for everything. I just want to find a way to move forward, for the kids." "I appreciate that," I said, keeping my tone calm and measured. "Our priority has to be the children. They deserve stability and love from both of us." We discussed practical matters first, schedules, school events, and how to ensure our communication remained clear and focused on the kids' well-being. As we talked, I could see the weight of her guilt and regret. It wasn't easy for me to sit across from her, remembering the betrayal, but I knew this was necessary. "I know I've lost your trust," Alice said, her eyes moist. "But I hope in time we can find a way to be civil and work together for our family." "I won't lie, Alice," I replied, meeting her gaze. "What you did hurt me deeply, but for the sake of our children, I'm willing to try. They need both of us, even if we can't be together." The conversation was difficult but necessary. By the end of it, we had a clear plan for co-parenting, and I felt a small sense of relief. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a step toward a more stable future for our children. Returning home, I found Jessica in the kitchen preparing dinner. The comforting aroma of her cooking filled the air, and I felt a wave of gratitude for her presence in my life. She looked up and smiled as I entered. "How did it go?" she asked, her eyes full of understanding. "It was tough," I admitted, sitting down at the kitchen island. "But we talked, and we have a plan for the kids. It's a start." Jessica came over and wrapped her arms around me. "You're doing the right thing, David. They need both of you, and you're strong enough to make it work." I held her close, feeling the warmth and support she always provided. "I couldn't do this without you, Jessica. Thank you for being here." As we sat down for dinner, I reflected on how far I had come. The journey from betrayal to healing had been arduous, but I had found strength in the people who mattered most: my children, Jessica, and even the friends who had supported me along the way. In the following weeks, Alice and I began to implement our co-parenting plan. We communicated regularly about the children, attended their school events together, and worked hard to present a united front for their sake. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. The kids seemed to adjust well to the new routine. They still had questions and moments of sadness, but with time and reassurance, they grew more comfortable with the changes. Jessica's presence was a constant source of stability and love, and they began to see her as a positive figure in their lives. One evening, after tucking the kids into bed, I sat on the porch with Jessica, enjoying the quiet night. The stars were bright, and the air was cool and refreshing. "I'm proud of you," Jessica said, taking my hand. "You've come so far, and you've handled everything with such grace." "Thank you," I replied, squeezing her hand. "It hasn't been easy, but having you by my side has made all the difference." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, reflecting on the journey we had been through. The past year had tested me in ways I never imagined, but it had also shown me the strength of my spirit and the power of love and resilience. As I looked up at the stars, I felt a sense of peace. The future was uncertain, but I knew that with Jessica and my children, I could face whatever came next. We had rebuilt our lives from the ashes of betrayal, and now we were ready to embrace the promise of new beginnings. As the months went by, life began to settle into a new rhythm. The initial turbulence of betrayal, legal battles, and rebuilding had given way to a sense of normalcy. My children were adjusting well to our new family dynamics, and my relationship with Jessica continued to deepen. One sunny Saturday morning, we decided to have a family picnic at the park. The kids were excited, packing their favorite snacks and games, while Jessica and I prepared sandwiches and drinks. The park was bustling with families enjoying the weekend, and the atmosphere was filled with laughter and the sound of children playing. We found a perfect spot under a large oak tree, spreading out a blanket and setting up our picnic. The kids immediately ran off to join a group of children playing soccer, their joyous shouts echoing through the park. Jessica and I watched them with contentment, savoring the moment. "This is nice," Jessica said, leaning against me. "It feels good to see them so happy." "It does," I agreed, wrapping an arm around her. "We've come a long way." As we enjoyed our picnic, I couldn't help but reflect on how much had changed. Alice and I had managed to maintain a civil co-parenting relationship, focusing on what was best for the children. While our personal connection was strained, We found common ground in our love for our kids. One afternoon, Alice called to discuss an upcoming school event. Her tone was calm and cooperative, a stark contrast to the tension of our past interactions. "I think it would be good if we both attended," she suggested. "The kids would appreciate seeing us there together." "I agree," I replied. "Let's make sure we're both there for them." The school event was a success. Alice and I stood side by side, cheering for our children as they participated in various activities. The kids beamed with pride, clearly happy to see us united in our support for them. It was a small victory, but a significant one. Back at home, Jessica and I continued to build our life together. We made plans for the future, discussing vacations, home improvements, and even the possibility of expanding our family. The love and stability she brought into my life were immeasurable, and I felt incredibly fortunate to have found her. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, I turned to Jessica with a sense of certainty. "Jessica, I want to ask you something important," I began, taking her hand. She looked at me, her eyes full of warmth and curiosity. "What is it, David?" "I've been thinking about our future a lot," I said, my heart pounding. "You've been an incredible partner and a wonderful presence in the kids' lives. I can't imagine my life without you. Will you marry me?" Jessica's eyes filled with tears and she nodded, a radiant smile spreading across her face. "Yes, David, I will marry you." I slipped the ring onto her finger, feeling a surge of happiness and relief. Our journey together had been filled with challenges, but it had also brought us to this beautiful moment. We embraced, ready to face the future as a united family. The wedding was a small, intimate affair, attended by close friends and family. The kids played a special role in the ceremony, symbolizing the blending of our lives and the new chapter we were embarking on. It was a day filled with love, joy, and the promise of a bright future. As we danced under the stars that night, I felt a profound sense of peace. The pain of the past had given way to hope and happiness. With Jessica by my side and my children thriving, I knew we were ready to embrace whatever came next. Our new normal was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of love. Despite the betrayals and hardships, we had built something beautiful and enduring. Together, we faced the future with confidence, knowing that we could overcome any obstacle as a family. As life settled into a joyful rhythm with Jessica by my side and our blended family thriving, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had led me here. The past few years had been a whirlwind of pain, betrayal, and resilience, but they had also brought me profound growth and newfound happiness. One afternoon, I sat in my study, surrounded by books and mementos of the past. The sun streamed through the window, casting a warm glow over the room. I took a deep breath, savoring the moment of quiet reflection. Looking back, I realized how much I had learned about forgiveness and the power of letting go. Forgiving Alice wasn't easy, nor was it something I could do overnight. It took time and effort to release the anger and hurt that had consumed me. But in doing so, I liberated myself from the weight of resentment and bitterness. I also reflected on the strength I had discovered within myself. The challenges I faced, betrayal, divorce, legal battles, had tested my resilience in ways I never imagined. Through it all, I found a resilience I didn't know I possessed. I learned to lean on my friends, my legal team, and most importantly, Jessica and my children, who had been unwavering sources of support. Jessica had been my rock throughout the journey. Her love, patience, and understanding had helped me heal and rebuild. She embraced my children as her own and brought laughter and warmth into our home. With her by my side, I felt empowered to face whatever challenges life threw at us. The children had also shown remarkable resilience. Despite the upheaval in their lives, they had adapted with grace and courage. They formed a strong bond with Jessica, and our home became a sanctuary of love and acceptance. As I reflected on the past, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the friends who had stood by me, the legal team who had fought tirelessly on my behalf, and the community that had offered support during the darkest moments. Each person had played a role in helping me rebuild my life. One evening, I gathered with friends and family for a small celebration. It was a chance to express my gratitude and celebrate how far we had come. Laughter filled the room as we shared stories and toasted to new beginnings. "Thank you all," I said, raising my glass, "for being here, for believing in me, and for helping me find happiness again." The room erupted in applause and cheers, and I looked around at the faces of the people who had become my family. Alice was there too, sitting across the room with a smile that held a hint of regret, but also acceptance. We had come a long way from the pain of betrayal, finding a way to coexist peacefully for the sake of our children. In the months and years that followed, life continued to unfold with its ups and downs. There were challenges and setbacks, but there were also moments of joy and triumph. Jessica and I built a life together filled with love, laughter, and shared dreams. We supported each other through the inevitable storms that life brought our way, knowing that together we were stronger. Looking back on the journey from betrayal to rebuilding, I realized that it had shaped me in ways I couldn't have anticipated. It had taught me resilience, compassion, and the importance of cherishing the present moment. It had shown me the power of forgiveness and the beauty of second chances. As I sat in my study, surrounded by the warmth of love and the echoes of laughter from our family, I felt a deep sense of peace. The scars of betrayal had healed, leaving behind a heart filled with gratitude for the journey that had led me to this place, surrounded by love, surrounded by family, and surrounded by hope for the future. As time passed, our blended family continued to thrive. Jessica and I embraced our roles as parents, supporting each other and our children through life's challenges. We focused on creating lasting memories together, cherishing every moment as we built a future filled with love, stability, and hope. Each day brought new opportunities for growth and happiness, reminding us of the resilience of the human spirit and the power of love to heal and transform. In the final chapter of this journey, I reflect on the profound transformations that have shaped my life. With Jessica by my side and our blended family flourishing, I am grateful for the lessons of resilience, forgiveness, and the enduring power of love. As we look forward, we embrace the future with hope and gratitude, knowing that together we have overcome adversity and built a life filled with joy and fulfillment. Our children stayed with me. I did everything possible to shield them from the negative impact of the situation. I focused on my life, discovered new hobbies, and started a business I had long planned. I met a wonderful woman named Jessica, who supported me through the toughest times. We began building a new life together, leaving betrayal and pain behind. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos.